Hey everyone, this is Gavin.
Hey everybody, this is Todd.
And I'm Craig.
Hey everyone, we are Major's Mess Hall, and this is episode 117. Now this is a special episode for us because we've got a guest from a show that everyone is talking about currently, which is of course the Tiger King. And we're going to have a quick discussion about that now. And so joining me, we don't have Craig this time, Craig's not with us, but we've got Kelly.
Hi.
And we've obviously got Mr. Todd Walters as well.
Hey, what's up?
So first of all, let's talk a little bit about our guest. Who do we have, Todd?
We have Kelci Saffery, the gentleman who lost his left hand. I think it was his left hand and part of his arm due to an incident on the Tiger Sanctuary Zoo.
Yeah, so I just basically reached out and asked Saf if he would come on, and he said yeah. So I was like, oh wow, okay, this is fantastic. I wasn't expecting him to say that he would do it, and he did. So yeah, so we set it up, we had a chat, and it was, it's just amazing to hear his side of things. You know, like there was only so much that he actually said on the documentary. You know, so it was nice, and he even said that himself. Like, it's a thank you to you guys for letting me give my side of things. So it was really interesting. But as a documentary as a whole, what did you guys think of it? Because, you know, I'm just curious to know your guys' opinion on it.
I think what surprised me most about the interview is that he said that not a lot of things were exaggerated. That was pretty much real life for him on the zoo, life on the zoo. And I think there's a lot of shock factors throughout. The first episode, I was like, oh no, I'm not really into it. And you were like, keep watching it, keep watching it. So then when I got into the second episode, that's when Saf has the accident, and it kind of, there's this like shocking moment after shocking moment throughout each episode. And yeah, I just was like, oh my God, things that you never thought would happen, happened. And then it took it to all different ways, like politics and music. You weren't expecting it to go.
Yeah.
And then obviously the crime element.
So Todd, like, if somebody said to you, what is the Tiger King about, what would you say? How would you describe it? What's your premise of the show?
My description would be that it is a documentary that is basically centered around the ethical treatment of animals, on which side of the fence you sit on that. But it's the depiction of, I would say, many larger-than-life people that unfortunately was all a reality. It was just, it was like watching a crazy-ass TV show that you sat there from week to week and go, what the hell, this can't be real. But unfortunately, it was not only real, but as Saf told us, a lot of the stuff about Joe Exotic was even toned down. Like, they didn't really capture how over the top Joe was on the documentary, which blew my mind, because I'm like, if that's him toned down, I'd hate to see when they dial him up to 11. Like, it's like, cause, like you say, the guy he was an entertainer. He missed his calling. He was great with the animals, but if you look at it, he was a country music wannabe star. He was a magician. He was an animal handler, and he was kind of reminded me of a P.T. Barnum type of guy, that, you know, no matter what situation you put him in, he was going to rise to the top and be the star and make sure he entertained you and got your money doing it. So basically, the premise of the show is just shows the cutthroat reality of a business like that is illegal on certain levels, but you find loopholes around it because it goes to show the greed that if you have the right amount of money, you can get what you want
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the laws are if you don't have the proper people there to police it and enforce them. Shit still goes on anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah,
That's basically what I got away from.
That's it. That's exactly it. And Saf is somebody that works there and helps look after the big cats and all the other animals and stuff. So, and obviously
Right.
he lost his hand at some point and that was like Kelly said, that was like the first big shock factor of the documentary was that there was somebody there that had lost their hand and then it was just like it just went on from there and just so much stuff. We don't want to spoil too much. I mean, there is things that are going to be discussed in the interview, and obviously after the interview, we're going to discuss it a little bit more as well. That may be considered spoilers, but I would suggest if you don't want any spoilers, you switch off, go watch the show, and then come back and listen to the interview. But if you don't mind, or you've already seen it, I mean, enjoy it. We're going to go through now to the interview with Saf, and we'll talk again afterwards. So. Here is our interview with Saf.
'Cause I saw a tiger, now I understand. Well, I saw a tiger, tiger saw man. Well, I saw a tiger, tiger saw man.
Joining us today is star of the smash hit Netflix documentary Tiger King, Kelci Saffery. Let me just start off by saying what a wonderful privilege it is for us to be able to talk to you today.
No, it's not a problem at all. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So the first question I've got for you is how are you dealing with being part of the biggest show in the world at the moment? Like, this is the only thing anybody is talking about aside from obviously the virus.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty surreal for me, honestly. I've always been very low key, and this is completely new to me. So I'm taking it in stride, trying to navigate my way through it all.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's crazy. It's just like, I mean, it's nice in a way because it's what we needed. We really needed something to keep us entertained and get our minds thinking about something else. So,
100%. So how did you get into the big cat world?
Yeah, I've always been interested in tigers my whole life. In fact, as soon as I could say the word tiger, I was asking for it on my birthdays and Christmas. So, I was born and raised in Hawaii, actually. And
Oh wow, lovely place.
Nice.
Love it.
yeah, pretty paradise. And, and you just can't have them there. So obviously, I never got a tiger for my birthday. So as an adult, it was my main mission. I'm gonna get my hands on a tiger somehow. And I joined the military. And while I was transitioning out of the military after my military career, I was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I just went ahead and did a Google search for tigers. How do I get my hands on a tiger? And that was the first place I found closest to me. And the day I stepped foot on park, I never left. So that's how I got into it.
Wow.
So have you always had a passion for animals?
I have, yeah, most definitely. When I was a kid, I didn't think it wasn't normal, I didn't think it was just something I did and not something everybody did, but I did. I used to actually take, it sounds horrible now, but I used to take baby bird nests out of trees and try to tend to them, try to feed them and water them. Yeah, I definitely always had more of a gravitational pull towards animals than people,
That's amazing. So when you got into the whole tiger thing, like how did you meet Joe? Like how did that come about?
Yeah, honestly, just a Google search, and his park was, about an hour east of me at the time. So I just reached out and just said, hey, I see that you have internships or you have, these programs where you allow people to come in and kind of learn the trade and whatnot. And he said, yeah, definitely. Whenever you want to come down, you should make time and set an appointment and come down. And I tell you, the second I met him, he was exactly the way you guys were introduced to him as well. So
He's a very charismatic, entertaining figure.
Definitely, yes.
Well, yeah, that was another question actually they had was did the show portray him in a true light? And you say that it did.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, and I would say they may have even, kind of dulled it down, just because I seen it on a daily basis for
Wow.
almost 10 years, and for almost 10 years, he went, that amount of days every day, surprising me on a daily basis. So it was always something new, something different, something outrageous with him, and that's just my experience with him. So that's all I know.
So, a weird question that I may have is,
Huh?
so you work around tigers and you get used to being around these animals. What's the mindset when you go into a job where you think that I mean, obviously you have like a love and a respect for these animals, but they're very dangerous or can be. So, how do you prepare yourself to be around an animal that you know if you turn your back on them, they could potentially harm you? Like, what's that like?
That's a great question, but I don't think I've ever had that moment, to be honest with you. I think my passion overrode my sensibility, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't think there was ever a moment that I said, "This is dangerous." I acknowledge every day that it's not for the faint of heart, but I don't think I was ever fearful of the animal.
Okay.
That's crazy because I would be terrified.
I mean, with good reason. I genuinely don't think I've ever felt that feeling, as far as interacting with the tigers, the lions, anything that's just these big, outrageous, exotic animals, and kind of marked dangerous. Because we had bears on park, we had 14-foot alligators on park, and I don't think there was ever a time that I was fearful.
So, is the documentary exaggerated in general, or is it pretty much accurate representation of how things were on life on the zoo?
Oh no, I definitely think it's accurate. As far as just like the drama part of everything, I think that was highlighted for sure, um, to make it entertaining or
Yeah,
whatnot. These are all facts. These are all real people, and in real time. I mean, you guys met the same people I met, and I know every single one of them personally. So,
that's very rare that it is. Usually accurate, normally always.
the most entertaining TV or movies are the ones that kind of aim for the type of things that Joe Exotic is made out of.
Yes. Yeah.
That's true.
I
So it's
think
entertaining because that's what everyone else aims for as far as entertainment goes.
It's kind of
He's
like
just
watching the
real
Jerry
different.
Springer show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. That's
You get to
exactly
see
it.
this larger than life thing, and you're like, wow, do people really act like that? And they go, yeah, yeah, they do. It's
They
like,
really do. Yeah.
the general response that from what I can see from the show seems to be that people kind of feel sorry for Joe. Obviously there's many people that don't feel that way, but just it seems to be that the outpouring is that they feel he's been wronged. Like, how do you think he would feel about how the show has been perceived? Do you think he'd be? I mean, maybe he knows. I don't know, but I'm just curious
Right.
because he's like
Right.
the biggest celebrity in the world at the moment, and that's kind of what he always wanted.
That's exactly it, and that's exactly what I was about to say is that he has literally lived every day of his life aiming to be the star of the show, and he is very much so the star of the show now. So he is ecstatic, even if it is behind bars.
Yeah. So, do you feel that he was wronged?
In this case, I truly feel like it's a matter of like the meanest kids on the playground, and he's the one that gets picked on the most. So it's if that's what you're gonna say, if that's how people feel about it, Joe's been right. Yes, he was definitely uh, the one that everyone was working against. Yes. Other than that, I mean, I think he just got caught up in it because Joe doesn't know how to not be involved in something. Joe, if he feels strongly for it, then he's going to speak out about it. We're talking about a man who ran for president of the United States. You know? I mean, we're not
yeah, and
talking.
got 14% of the vote in the state. I mean,
He
it's
did. He did. He's not your average Joe. He is definitely your exotic Joe. So yeah, that's really all I got on that one.
So one of the aspects of the show that they touched on was your mishap, where you lost your hand and part of your arm. Like,
Listen,
um, uh, could you take us through like what led up to that and how that happened exactly? And was it
right.
something you were just doing like a typical, normal, everyday thing, and it just was an accident, or what exactly happened?
Oh, that's exactly what it was. And it was not an accident. It was a mistake. It was complacency on my end. Um,
Okay,
and for that reason, exactly, is that it was so routine to me. I did that every day, maybe 100 times a day. I did that exact same thing. Um, so you do the same thing over and over again. You don't think is the thing. It just
right.
becomes nature. Um, and when you work with things like exotic animals or dangerous animals, you can't be complacent. And I just was, and that was my biggest mistake.
So was it you were trying to feed an animal and it happened, or
That's
what was?
exactly. It's we have this system where you move it from its main enclosure into what we call a shift pen, and it's just somewhere for it to stay so that it's not in the cage with everyone trying to clean and water and stuff like that.
Okay,
So he's in a shift pen, and I'm just moving him now that he got, his cage cleaned from that pen to his main enclosure. And mind you, it's just a gate between the two pens, So you open the gate, it goes one way, you close the gate. And I've, like I said, done it 100 times a day, every day. And I just, instead of using the tools provided, I just went ahead, reached in, and tried to pull that gate, And it was winter, it was October, so I had on a big, coat and some gloves, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that the tiger told me it wasn't an aggressive move, but I think he was more playing. He thought it was a stuffed animal or something like
oh
that.
sure, yeah.
And if a 600-pound animal wants to be aggressive with you, you're gonna lose a little bit more than a hand. So
Right.
yeah,
That's the thing. Even with something like that, it's playtime. It's used to doing it with other 600-pound animals.
on
So you
animals.
take an average sized person, they're not going to match up too well against that. So
That's exactly it. I know that it could have been worse. I'm very happy that I didn't lose more than I did. And you just kind of learn and move on.
So you made the decision to obviously not have the arm. The doctor gave you the option, and you chose to have it removed. Do you regret that now? Because I know that it was going to be like 2 years of reconstructive surgery.
No, I don't. I don't regret my decision. In fact, when they did say that they would have to amputate, um, they told me that it would have been above the elbow. So I actually came out with more than I thought I would. So that made me happy. I can tell you, 2 years after my decision to amputate, it brought up some things, some emotions, some feelings, but I think at that time, I had gone 2 years of life without the left hand, and it just became normal to me.
Yeah.
So,
And
and now almost 7 years later, it's like I don't know. I don't even know what life was with two hands. So.
and like you say, you were expecting to lose more of it. So just having that extra bit, I mean, that obviously must make a massive difference in what you can actually still do.
Big time, yeah. And you live and learn. Every day I find something new that I didn't know that I couldn't do. And then I just work on doing it. I mean, when I first amputated, my first 6 months after it healed and whatnot, I couldn't tie my shoes or button my own shirts and stuff. And now I can tie a shoe one handed.
Wow,
So,
that's
you learn
awesome.
to adapt and overcome then.
oh, 100%. If you just keep striving, just keep knowing that you can overcome.
And you were back at work 4 days later. Is that true?
Well, it happened on the 5th of October. So it happened 7 days after the incident, 5 days after the amputation. So 7 days later from the time of the incident, I was back on park. Yes, sir.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I admire you for doing it. I think I would have milked the time off, to be honest. I'd have been like, oh no. In fact, I actually did. I crushed my little finger, my pinky finger. I crushed it underneath a skip. I mean, I did actually need some plastic surgery on it, to be honest. But I mean, look who I'm talking to. I can't really get anyone to feel sorry for me. But I actually did take a lot of time off work, and it was advised by the doctor. But still,
Right. Yeah. No, it was definitely advised by my surgeon as well. But my biggest thing at the time, and if it had happened at home, I definitely would have took the time off and whatnot. But because of the situation, I definitely just wanted to get back to park and do a little bit of damage control. The
yeah,
longer in my head, the longer I sat in that hospital, the bigger of a story it was going to be when I got out. So
Right. But do you
for
think that,
the
especially the animal rights activist groups and things, would see that as like uh, a way to say, oh, this is exactly why we shouldn't have these kind of things because
yeah,
these
right.
things happen. So,
Right, exactly. And and my argument to that would be, well, it's my career decision, as a grown up to choose what I want to do. Firefighters take the risk of getting burned every single day, you know. So I know the risk that my job or my career entails, and I choose to do that every day. So it should be my decision to do so. Um, and that point didn't need to be argued because it's everyone knows that they're coming from the animals' point of view. Animal rights activists think that they know what's best for animals, and they do, and we do too. So we're fighting the same fight, except against each other, which is the most ridiculous thing about this situation.
exactly.
Um, and I was just there for the animals. They have given me and my entire life more than I will ever be able to give back to them. So the best thing that I could do at that time was to make sure that the park didn't get shut down for one, because where are these animals going to go after that? That's their home.
yeah.
I knew that the way to do that was to just get right back to park. So that's what I did.
So, do you miss it now that you're not doing it anymore?
I do. I do miss the everyday thing. It consumed me from the moment I opened my eyes to the moment I shut them again. And I loved every second of it. And when you love what you do, you don't work a single day in your life. And that was my life for almost 10 years. So yes, I definitely
Wow.
miss. But I do know that I do not want to be a part of the animal industry ever again.
So, what was it that made you leave?
Uh, my reason for being on park was the passion that I had to work with these animals and to keep these animals. Captive animals cannot be returned to the wild, and we put them in cages. So the best thing we can do is make the best of their time, that we have, um, or that we can, and that's what I was doing on a daily basis. That was my mission every day, was to get up and how can I do what's best for them while I can, while I'm here. Um, and once I realized that that was not going to happen on that park, that's when I stepped away.
So the one moment that stuck out for me was when the two chimps were
Yeah,
caged, and then they were, I think they were given to a different park, and they had a big space, and they were put together, and they were in the middle of the field, like hugging each other.
yeah.
Was there any time when you thought, this is not right? What's going on here? I need to do something about it.
On park,
Yeah.
yeah. The moment that I thought that was when I realized that the animals weren't, at the forefront of everyone's mind that I was working with directly. And that's when I left. Like I said, once I realized that I wasn't going to be able to progress anyway, in any way, shape, or form, on that part, I walked away from it. And it did unfortunately have a lot to do with the people there, and the dynamic there.
So the
So
change of ownership.
100%, just the dynamic in general. And then of course once all this drama unfolded, which was after I left the park, is when more of this all came out. It all kind of fell apart from there. Um,
So you
I
got
was
out at the right time.
I did. I was very happy that I had walked away when I did, because man, that I don't know what would have happened if I was around for that. Um,
That would have
and
been hard being an animal lover.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and like I said, we do go from day to day wondering if we're doing what's best, because you can read all the books in the world, you can talk to all the people, you know, um, but you'll never really know if you're doing what's best for them because they can't tell you. Like the chimps. Joe was right. Those chimps sat in cages next to each other for years, and they could have easily not, because the second you put them together in a big field, they're sitting there hugging each other. These are two, fully intact male chimps. Like, that's a big deal. But
Yeah, that
because they
moment
couldn't
really
tell
got
us,
me.
we never
Yeah.
knew that. Breaks your heart. Yeah.
Well, there was another scene that, and this might just be me, I don't know, but there was another scene that's kind of the opposite of that, where there was you were moving all these tigers, but there's so many in one cage. There was like, looked like there was like 10 or something, and they looked like a herd of cattle. Like, was that a normal thing to do? Because that didn't seem right to me.
It's not. If by normal you mean natural, absolutely not. Tigers by nature are solitary creatures. But that's the thing about captivity, is anything that you raise together will only know that. We had a lion that lived with a bunch of Dachshund hounds,
Wow.
um, because they were raised together. It's not natural, but on that part in those cages, it was normal.
Yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
I'm telling you, there is absolutely no way you could have took that wiener dog away from that lion. So,
That's so sweet. It's like a symbiotic relationship almost. That's
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
exactly, and that's the stuff that we get to see because we're a part of it, or yeah, I mean, it's there on our park. And like I said, that wasn't even shown, and I think there was like a clip of it in the video or in the documentary, and that's it. So there's a lot more to the animal industry than just these big arguments over who's doing what better and who's doing what wrong.
So, like, the way you come across in the documentary, this is just a viewer's opinion. You come across absolutely lovely, like one of the most genuine people on the show. And again, my opinion, there wasn't too many. I mean, I'll tell you the four people I thought seemed like they were genuinely nice people, and that's obviously like. And when I say nice people, I mean there was nothing else going on behind the scenes that you would question.
Right?
Was
Yeah.
you John Reinke? I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Frankie.
The guy with no,
Sure.
yeah. He seemed like he was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Eric Cowie, he seemed like he genuinely loved the animals, which
Oh yeah.
I admired. And then obviously Josh as well, the campaign manager, he seemed like a lovely guy as well. But
Right.
with that said, now as time goes on and you're gonna hear a lot more of what people think of you, which, like I say, for the most part, everybody thinks you are an amazing person. I've not heard anyone say anything bad about you. So with that
Yeah.
said, I know you said before that you've got no interest in getting involved with animals again, but do you not think that maybe there's a possibility? Because my opinion is that you are such a benefit to the animals. It's so important, essentially.
Right, right. I appreciate that. I definitely thought about it. As far as I am okay with not being on the forefront of it all, the front lines, right now, just because it got so heated so quickly. I
Yeah.
mean, for me to watch this documentary, which I enjoyed it, but for me to watch these people that are at the forefront of this so-called, uh, I don't know how to really put it, just convoy. We're all supposed to be on the same team because we all work with these exotic animals that we fought for the rights to own and display and work with like this. So to see them all kind of just be each other's own enemies was kind of devastating for me, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
I
can
just don't
imagine.
want to
Yeah.
be part of that family or that crowd anymore. And that's why I say I would never work, be a part of the animal industry again. But that doesn't mean that I still won't be there, on the sidelines to. I mean, I think that even the customers play a role in the fight, So every customer that comes through to interact with these animals makes a difference.
Yeah.
Or even just visit them at a zoo, you're still doing the same because it's contributing directly back to the animals. Well, hopefully at least.
Yeah.
Right.
In this case, not so much, and that's why I was so upset.
So thinking of the animals in mind, what do you think moving forward would be the best for like the exotic animals like tigers and lions? Do you think like a zoo in captivity is good for them, or pr trying to conserve them in their wild, or having like a big sanctuary that's open to where they could roam like hundreds of acres and kind of be in their normal habitat but still be in a kind of protected area away from people? Or what do you think is the best for the animals overall?
Best for the animals obviously would be natural habitats, right?
Okay.
But I think at this point we're so far along, like it was pointed out in the documentary, there are more tigers in captivity than there is in the entire world in the wild,
It's so
Right.
sad.
right?
And
In
obviously you can't
captivity,
release them back into the wild because they wouldn't know how to,
exactly.
fend
So
for
at this
themselves.
point, we're so far into the problem that there isn't a simple, fix as far as are they better off in the wild or better off in captivity. It's a matter of which issue do or not which issue, but which solution or part of the solution do you support? Do you support or fund building sanctuaries that are like the wild and such, or rebuilding their natural habitats somewhere, right?
Right.
Or do you support, the zoos who are doing the best that they can with the captive tigers that we currently have? So I I would love to see one day a place where these captive tigers can, live as if they were in the wild. But I know that the only way that anyone's going to ever pay it any mind, aside, which is it's so odd because this documentary has brought so much attention to it. But the only other way that it's gonna, get to the public eye is if you interact with them. If you go to the zoo to see the tiger, you know? If I mean that's the only way anyone cares about anything is if it becomes a part of their life somehow, you know?
Right.
If the if something only happens in one part of the world, to the rest of the world it never existed. And that's really what we're playing with here. It's
That's
about
so
drawing
true.
attention
Yeah.
to the issue itself. Yeah.
Okay.
If they decided to do a second series, which they do this all the time, when something's successful, they try and milk it and do something else. Like they did it with Making a Murderer, they did a second series. If they did a second
Right.
series and they approached you to do some more interviews on the side, to not necessarily get involved with anyone, but just talk again, would you do that?
Right. Yeah. No. Yes, I would, and it's for one reason. The same reason that I actually did this series. I refused actually to participate in this documentary from the start. And finally, on one last attempt, the filmmaker said, "Listen, this story is going to be told no matter what, with or without you." He said, "You have a hell of a story, and I think it should be told by you." So,
Yeah,
if
that's
I
true.
am involved, yeah, if I'm involved in any way, shape, or form in the continuing of this series, and there is a story that that I'm a part of or directly involved with, then yes, I definitely want it to be told by me.
So one other question I've got is, the whole the plot to have Carol Baskin assassinated. Like, do you think that was legit? Like, what's your opinion? Do you think he was set up, or do you think he did pay that money to have her killed?
Right. I think that he definitely talks way too much. He knows it. It's to his face. So it's just a part of his character, and I think that's what happened. Is when you say something to so many people, it's gonna start getting back around. You know.
Yeah,
Um, but I wasn't around for any of that. I wasn't a part of any of that, so I don't know much else about it except what you guys are seeing for the first time on this documentary. Um, like I said, it highlighted a lot of the secret conversations that were had outside of what I knew, and I only knew what pertained to animal care and animal handling. So
definitely.
everything else didn't matter to
Makes
me,
sense.
all the little bickering and stuff. It didn't matter. It didn't have anything to do with the animals. I don't care.
Like,
So with you having like the animal's best interest in mind, how do you feel about
Absolutely.
people that have like say a rich person wants to get his daughter a tiger for her birthday. How do you
Right.
feel about someone showing up to a place like Joe's and purchasing a tiger and putting it in her home as a pet, not having any, prior knowledge of how to care for the animal and how to properly, like, it's pretty much just like
I mean,
like a toy or a
doesn't
piece
with
for the
anything.
kid.
Right, right.
So it doesn't benefit the animal. So do you think that there should be legislation and laws in the states to kind of avoid people from being able to do that?
I think it goes all the way across the board with any animal. I think you shouldn't get a dog if you don't want a dog or a lifetime responsibility. Except this lifetime responsibility comes with the risk of it eating you. You know?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's if
It's
somebody
pretty.
doesn't know how to properly care for this beast and they don't
Exactly.
truly
I
respect and
truly
appreciate
feel
it.
that, yeah, responsibility right across the board, responsibility and accountability right across the board needs to be legislated for sure, 100. And it doesn't just go for exotic animals, but obviously it's a little bit more pressing when it's a 600-pound tiger in your living room compared to a chihuahua that just, you know.
Well, I agree with you 100% on that.
I can't, like, for me, it's like, we've got one cat, and changing a little litter box is a pain, so I can't imagine what it'd be like changing a tiger-sized litter box.
Responsibility, right?
You
Exactly.
need a shovel
Yeah.
for that shit. Like, that's no way.
I'm telling you. Now multiply that by 100, 300, and that's just one, So I feel like responsible anything ownership is what needs to be highlighted here. I mean, they take children away from parents when parents aren't properly caring for these children. It should be the same for anything across the board that has life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I stand on it all, honestly.
Awesome.
So there were so many shocking moments during the documentary, and one of them that stood out for me was the arson attack. And there's also so many stories that have come out of that. So apparently the alligators are Michael Jackson's and that kind of thing. And I think one thing for me was I was surprised that there was so many different animals because it was so focused on the big cat side of things.
Right. Yeah, no, I mentioned that as well. I said, for one, there's not enough footage of what we actually did on that park. I mean, on a daily basis, it was such a grind to feed, clean, and care for every animal on that park. We had 1,200 animals at any given point.
Wow.
I mean, just 50, 60 different types, different species. Some people, they would stand at the gate waiting to see the birds. I mean, some people needed to see the alligators. There were so many different things. There was chimps, and there was other primates, and there was skunks, raccoons. It was
Wow.
it was just a menagerie of animals, and it wasn't just big cats, but obviously the big cats were at the forefront.
Yeah.
Of it because that's where all the pressing issues were.
But the cost of running that must have been extortionate.
Yeah,
And the meat. But I see you
Yeah.
get the meat.
Yeah.
You got the meat from Walmart, was it? Have I got that right?
Yeah, we had these contracts, right? We had these contracts, and what they did is they just would donate these meat or these trucks of meat to us, and it literally saved us. I mean, because if you can imagine having to feed a family of 5 per week, and then just multiply that family of 5 to a family of 220, because that's how many big cats we had at some. Yeah, and that's just the big cat, So, yeah, it got incredible, and that's why I know, and I said it, in the documentary. There were times that it got really tough, but somehow Joe always found a way to get through it somehow. So, yeah.
Wow.
So, do you think, or would you like to see justice served? Because, like, to those that are like still walking the streets, basically, because there's people involved in that documentary that are crooks, and it's proven that they are, and they're definitely guilty of things, and it's not fair that whether it's right or wrong, it's not fair that Joe's the only one inside. Would you like to see justice served and karma prevail?
Yeah, yes, 100%. I don't sleep well at night. I've always said from the start that I don't involve myself in the case. I did not support nor indict him. And I chose that. I chose to step away and not be involved. But I don't hate him. You know, I worked
Yeah.
with him for almost 10 years directly every day. I don't hate him. Um, I just don't want to be involved. I do think that it's sad that he may possibly die in prison. You know,
Yeah.
yes, if this is the beginning of justice for the animals, then it should go across the board. So yes, I think that there's two daughters and a wife in Florida that deserve to get some answers. Um, there's just a lot. I know that everyone involved is just living their life, but there are people being negatively affected, and if justice is there, then it should go across the board. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
Have you spoke to him at all since he's been in prison?
I have. It was just one time in 2018. He put out on Facebook that if anyone has the time, they should visit his mom in the new nursing home she was at. So I did. I went to go see her, and then he called me that night because word gets around really quickly to him. So he called me that night. I did answer. He did try calling me prior to that. I never answered or never responded, but I think I owed it to him. I knew Shirley just as long as I knew Joe, and she didn't do a single thing wrong in this thing. She was a victim.
Yes.
She was a victim. So
Yeah, she was. I felt really, really bad for her.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one more question and then we can wrap this up. So the final question is from me anyway. I don't know if the other guys have got any questions, but my final question is, did Carol kill her husband?
Man, yeah, that's such a loaded question because if if yes, I think she did because that's the type of person she is, but no, because there's no evidence, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Right, it's aggravated
You need the evidence, right? But in the game of who did it, yes, definitely all fingers point at her.
But speaking of Carol Baskin, do you think she's kind of a hypocrite, like in the series, how she portrayed Joe being such a horrible, evil person and Doc Antle being so bad, but yet she's kind of doing the exact same thing that she was accusing them of being horrible
Right.
against the animals for, but yet she has animals in cages and she charges
Right.
people to have their
Right.
picture taken and to pet them. So isn't she part of the problem if that's the way she sees it?
Right. Yeah. Exploitation is exploitation. And if that's the word she wants to use, then she falls under that category as well. I think everyone's biggest argument is, she rescues and not buys. Again, not fact. Like, I don't know if that's a fact. I'm just repeating.
Right. I guess she doesn't breed the animals in captivity for her own personal gain, but yet she still puts them out there to profit off of them.
So, yes, she's a hypocrite in the sense that they are doing what they have to do to support, their zoo or their sanctuary or whatever they call it. And then, of course, Joe breeds and she does not,
Right.
So, yes, in that sense, it's the same. I think Carol just focused on what she could use against Joe, and she found the right key. Because, man, she got to him. She got under his skin for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question for you as well is that I've seen on Twitter there's a lot of questions going on about how you like to be referred.
Right.
What is the situation with that? How would you like to be referred? Because I know there was another interview you did and you wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, well, just from the start, I don't think I've ever put that at the forefront of anything. It's literally never crossed my mind. But I do understand that it means something to a lot of people. So for me, I prefer he, but I'm not going to sit around telling anyone what to do. Honestly, I just,
I really admire that. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's an awesome attitude to have.
I just roll with it, man. I like to be happy. I don't
Of
like
course,
to get,
yeah. That's what it's all about. As long as nobody's calling you names, it doesn't really matter what they call you at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're all
You seem like
human.
a pretty happy, yeah. You seem pretty happy, laid back person anyway.
I am. And it's really because, and sometimes it's almost selfishly unaware of just anyone else. I just
Yeah.
want to do what I know makes me happy. I'm a little bit reckless, um, but my biggest saying is, if you're gonna be dumb, you just got to be tough. So
And as for your name, do you prefer Kelci or Saf?
either works. Yeah, they're both Kelsey's my first name or my English name, and Saffery's my last name. I went by Saf a lot because when I got out of the military, at that point, in the military it's all last names. So
Yeah,
at that all these years of being Saf, that when I got to the zoo, that's actually how I introduced myself to Joe. Is hey, I'm Saf.
Oh, okay, yeah. So in England, it's like it's very big on nicknames in England as well.
Right.
Like my name is Gavin, but everybody calls me Gav in England. But except when I come to
Right.
Canada, it's Gavin. So depends where you go.
Exactly. So either one works. They're both my name, and I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you very much for your time and especially for downloading Skype. Like I said, that was so wonderful of you. And it's been we've interviewed a lot of people, and it's been extra lovely talking to you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
keep
we're
up the good work on the preservation of the animals. Keep the fight going because it's it's a very
100%.
important issue.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So where can people find you on social media?
I've always had the Instagram and the Facebook and the Twitter open. I'm not very present on there, but I do appreciate people reaching out. I know it takes a lot. It's a pretty bold move to reach out to a stranger in good faith. So I definitely started to or wanted to reply to everybody. So I'm very active as far as replying and whatnot. And it's just my first and last name on every platform.
Excellent. Well, we'll put a link in the description of the episode anyway. So if people do want to follow you, they'll do so.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys letting me tell my story.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
guys.
Thanks
It's
very
been
much.
lovely having you on.
Alrighty.
Have a nice weekend.
Take care.
See ya.
Oh, here, kitty, kitty. Oh, Mama's got some treats for you. Oh, here, kitty, kitty. You can't find this taste in the zoo. Oh, here, kitty, kitty. Well, Mama Carol, she sure loves you. Oh, here, kitty, kitty. Well, Mama made this for you.
So there was our interview there with Saf, and again, just want to say, like I always do, thank you very much, Saf, for coming on and giving us your time. It was absolutely amazing to talk to you, and just now you've got us thinking now more about the show. I kind of want to go back and rewatch it now, knowing some of the things that he told us. So what do you guys think of the interview and Saf as a person?
Really nice person. He's really laid back and open and honest with his opinions. So kind of gave us a bit more of an insight of how things were.
Todd?
Yeah. Yeah, he was just an awesome, down-to-earth, humble individual. When you talk to people like that, it always amazes me because he was kind of like an unsung hero of the show, in my opinion, because I think he was truly there for the right reason. It was all about the animals. He didn't get into the whole flamboyant, over-the-top spectacle of it. It was just care for the animals. He and basically 3 or 4 other people were all about the animals, all about the passion of working with the animals and the conservation of the animals. So I think that that came across in the interview extremely well, and the fact that he was just very open and honest, and whatever we asked, he was perfectly fine with answering. So I mean, it was just a really an awesome interview, probably one of the best ones I've been involved in, because it was just I didn't feel like at any time I was stepping on anybody's toes, or I didn't have any questions where I was like, oh shit, this might be asking too much, or this might be a bad subject to bring up. Everything we asked, he was like, yeah, sure, no problem, and just was open and honest about it. So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, he was very, very accommodating. And like you were saying, there was he was one of the most genuine ones on the show as well. And I mean,
Definitely.
there was a lot of shit going on behind the scenes with with Joe and everybody else, but people like Saf, like they were just genuine people that were working there and doing their best for the animals, and for that reason, I'm glad that I'm glad that he was one of the ones we managed to get, to be honest, to come on and talk to us. So
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that any of the zoo workers would have been involved in all that behind the scenes fiasco or the money making. They obviously were just there to care for the animals, where as all the big dogs, shall we say, they're obviously after making money. Like, that's what hit me. It's like some of the having all the baby tigers taken away from the mum so early on, and he's got tiny little tigers that he's feeding in his room, and then the chimpanzee moment, obviously that's so just them little things like that.
Right.
Just
like there's stuff like that bothered me, like like when he had them in his bedroom and he was like, all he do is scream, and it's like, I can't fucking sleep, I had to sleep in the other room, and it's like, well, they're fucking newborns and they want their mum, like that's the reason why they're crying, you fucking cretin. Like that shit like that really pissed me off, and like one of them was born, and like I don't know if it was him or someone, I think it was him, I think it was Joe, was like pulling it through the bars on the fence, like because he wanted to like get it, and it's like, just been fucking born, like why just give it a little bit of time with its mum. Shit like that, man, bothered me.
There's little things. It's like, obviously that's painful for the fucking newborn having a chain link fence scraped across its back, and he's like, yeah, come here, I gotta check see what sex you are, and it's like, dude, can't you wait like a minute?
Exactly.
Just little things like that actually bothered me watching it. I was just like, oh, that's really bothering me to watch it. But and so one scene that was it a cheetah or a jag or something like that, I can't remember, was kind of attacking him a little bit, and he was pushing it back, and he was like, I'm going to get a gun and shoot you through in between your eyes. And that's obviously like, there's a lot of controversy. Didn't he do these things? That moment there is not putting him in the right light.
Definitely, it makes him look guilty by just by the stuff that's gone on.
Just that scene alone, just kind of puts him in a bad light for the other charges that he's eventually got put in prison for.
Yeah.
Right. I think the big picture of it, though, was it exposed true human nature. As far as you take someone like Joe, who got into it initially because he said he loved the tigers and he loved being around all these animals. But then you see over time as he built his business up and he got more famous and he got more money involved, it goes to show that how money corrupts people. Because even with the incident with Saf, here's you got one of your employees that just had their arm ripped off and they're taking him to the hospital. And it cuts back to him and he's sitting in his office going, I'm not going to financially recover from this. And it's like, you're thinking about your business and how it's impacting your business right now instead of your poor employee who's laying in a hospital with their arm chewed off.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you might want to put things in. Like, again, as a business owner, I understand having that outlook, but you could have had it like a week later instead of at that very moment of.
Exactly.
And it's like, again, he took the animals that he supposedly loved, was so passionate about, turned them into basically a commodity just to use for exploitation.
Yeah.
So, like you say, the treatment where he goes from loving these animals and cuddle them to where he's trying to cut a promo for his music video, one is chewing at his feet and he pulls out a gun, like shooting it in the air to scare it off and saying, hey, you're fucking up my video. And it's like, dude, you're in this video because these animals have put you in this place of fame.
Yeah.
And here you are treating it like they're an inconvenience because they're messing up your shot. And it's like, so, and like even with Carol Baskin, here she is, she's all about the rescue of these big cats, but she's no better because she puts them in cages, and she even says she puts them in safe places like cages till they die. So how is that any different than what they're doing? She charges money for pictures to be taken with them. So the only difference is
chain, didn't she have a lead as well?
Yeah. So it's like the difference is he was doing it in Oklahoma and she's doing it in South Florida. So the only difference is geographic location. As far as what's wrong is wrong in my opinion.
He was breeding them as well. That was the big difference. But like that's what she had the problem with him, was that he was breeding them, and she didn't think he should be doing that. But other than that, exactly the same.
She was adding to the problem of making more tigers in captivity that can never be returned to their.
Which is true. I mean that
which is true.
We can admit that is true, but yeah.
But
I
if
mean,
she was really on this crusade, she'd want to shut all zoos down and keep all the animals in the wild and have nothing in captivity, which is basically what the stance with PETA is. They don't want to see any unethical treatment of an animal,
yeah,
which whatever side you choose to set on that fence. I mean, but to me, like Saf even said, it's all about the basic responsibility of a pet owner and like someone who cares for this animal. Like, if you're not willing to do everything to give this animal the best life, then don't have it.
yeah, it's true.
So much so that Saf now doesn't want to work with animals.
Yeah,
Someone
which is
who
a
loves
real
animals
shame.
doesn't
Right.
want to actually work with them. So that's from what he's seen during his time there. So that just shows you how big of an impact it's had. Yeah.
Something else we have to keep in mind as well is that it's a documentary, so there is stuff that's filmed that we don't see. And even though Saf said, we basically seen exactly how the perception of the show is exactly true to reality. Basically, we don't know for sure. Like for example, when Saf got his hand bitten off, it cuts to Joe sitting in his office saying, "Oh, I'm not going to financially recover from this." We don't know if that's how it went down. Like he could have spent an hour, talking about how he hoped that Saf was going to be okay, and and he maybe even shed a few tears. We don't know. Probably likelihood is he didn't, but we don't know that. So there's actually if people are interested in seeing more of the show, like, I mean, I was left wanting more, so the first thing I did was go on YouTube, and the videos that guy, I can't remember his name, something Kirkham, I can't remember his first name now, but the guy that the guy that was filming the documentary,
Current Affair,
yeah. So those videos, day in the life of Joe, they are all on YouTube. They're like half an hour long each, and you can watch them. And it is a little bit different than the documentary. Like, it's a little bit, there's a bit more compassion in there than it was shown in the actual documentary. Like, there's one that's there's a white tiger that's been bitten by a snake, and it's got like an open wound, and Joe is aiding to the animal, and we can see that he cares. He's trying to get it better, and he's cleaning the wound up and stuff. And yeah, it doesn't. It just showed another side to it. So I was basically just saying to anybody that wants to see more stuff, go on YouTube and type it in. All his music videos are on there too, and they're amazing to see. Anyway,
that's the Joe TV stuff, his reality TV that he used to do like every day at 6 o'clock or whatever. Like he talks about, the reality TV show producer was part of.
That's right.
Yeah, but then you have the lens that you can look through from the. Like you say, that the person that has the actual documentary, you're only seeing what the person who filmed it wanted you to see. So you're looking at it through a very narrow lens. They can make it out to look anyway. Even though the people that were involved said, "Oh, it's an accurate depiction," again, they cut out only what they think is not pertinent to the story that they're trying to tell. So
yeah,
keep that in mind while watching.
Exactly. There's loads of animals that we didn't even know were there until the very end.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't even know there were.
And again,
I didn't know those chimpanzees there until the very end. It's
you see a lot of stuff in this stuff on YouTube as well. He had porcupines. I didn't even know he had porcupines, but there's all kinds of stuff that you just didn't know was even in that place. So I mean, I do recommend going on YouTube and watching the videos, because they're comical as well, because it's Joe, and he's a funny guy. So I mean, that's the thing about him. I actually do feel sorry for him in many ways. I feel that he's a misunderstood guy that's just wanted to be loved by people, and like, what I admire about him is that he doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks about him. Like, he'll dress how he wants and say what he wants, and he doesn't care. And I admire that in anybody that's, to a certain extent, that's willing to actually stand up and say what they believe in, and wear whatever they like and stuff. And
he is who he is unapologetically, and doesn't care if you approve of it or not.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. He doesn't give a fuck. And I do actually think that, I don't know if he's aware, like we were talking in the interview, whether he's aware of how big the show's gone. I'm sure he is, but he probably is loving it. He's probably loving the fact that he's like the biggest name in the world right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, even Saf said, even when he went to visit Joe's mum, it got back to Joe within like a few hours. So I have no doubt that he probably knows how big the show is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes sense anyway. So yeah,
Do you know what surprised me?
Go on.
Go on.
No, go on.
Sorry, what surprised me was how how Joe could sell tigers like within an hour, and
Yeah.
there's how many's in captivity. Just I was shocked by that. Like, are you allowed to? How easy is it to own a tiger in America? Has there be that many in captivity? And
Well,
then,
it depends on the state. Certain states have different laws, and I looked it up after the show. Like, there's some states that um, you can own a tiger. You can't sell a tiger per se because it's considered an endangered species, but you can own a tiger, which makes no sense that you can't sell it, but you can own one um, without a permit. But there's some that you have to have a permit, and then there's some states that you can't own a endangered animal, period. Like Maine, the state I live in, I looked at, you can own one with a permit, but you
wow.
can't you can't sell it.
So okay, so if you wanted to get a tiger, how difficult's that going to be? Not financially, because it's a couple of $1,000s, isn't it, to buy one?
two grand is what Joe said that the going rate for him was.
Okay,
And,
so if you wanted one, how easy could you get your hands on one? Do you think? Like this permit, is this easy to
well, I think again it would depend on where you live and who your neighbors were and your community, because Maine is a huge state and it's not very populated. There are some populated areas, like I live in a Bangor area, so there's 45,000 people right around in this area. And then you go down to Portland where there's like a lot of people in Augusta. But then there's certain areas where I've gone to people's homes when I used to work for my other job where they wouldn't have a neighbor for 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah,
So if
that's
you were
like Nova
someone like
Scotia.
that you went to, say, you found somebody on the internet and they drove a truck up and you made a transaction and you stashed this tiger in the back of a box van and drove it to your house, unless you had somebody that you pissed off and wanted to turn you in, 90% of people wouldn't even know you owned this thing unless an accident occurred where you had to call somebody, or like say you had somebody that wanted to turn you in for it. I think that's the problem with this whole market of endangered animals, that certain people want to own these animals, but they don't really have the proper training to care for these animals. And it makes it kind of, there's really no like animal police that come around, knock on your door and say, well, what do you got in there? You got a cat and a dog? You don't have any tigers? And want to check your permits. I mean, again, I'm sure to get a permit to own one legally in this state, you'd have to go through some rigorous background checks and stuff. But I really don't think that it would be that hard to get your hands on one if you wanted one bad enough. If you had the right amount of money, I'm sure you could call up Doc Antle or anybody else and go pick one up, and they'd be happy to sell it to you with a handbook on how to care for your tiger, the Dummy's Guide to Tiger Wrangling, and you'd be good to go.
Yeah, to me it just seems bizarre, like, to actually go out and like say, because there's scenes of him driving around with it in the car with him, and I just think you can't take it for a walk in the park, surely. So like, it's
yeah, but
just
they're cute, aren't they? They're cute at first.
at first, yeah, but he's sitting in a car with a fully adult one just sitting next to him like a dog.
No, but I think most people buy them because they're cute and they're risky animals, and
it's a
they look
status
good with
thing.
them. Yeah, they look good with them, and
There was a time in like the 90s and early 2000s where a lot of celebrities were getting into it. Like, you even saw in the documentary Shaquille O'Neal, basketball players, taking a tour of his ranch, and he's going, yeah, I picked up 2 tigers while I'm here. So it's like he bought 2 tigers while he was there for his own private collection. And I know Mike Tyson, when he lived in Ohio, he had white Bengal tigers that he had on his property that he bought. So I mean, I think that's what it is too. It's kind of a status thing, that if you were a celebrity, if you were somebody, you had these exotic animals that not everybody could have. So it was just kind of one of these bragging things that you be in a social circle and be like, oh yeah, I own a tiger, and people be like, oh wow, really? So, but doesn't mean you properly know how to care for one, and you're giving it the best quality of life. It just means that you have it so you can brag and people be envious of you. And it's like, that's not a reason to own an animal, in my opinion. I think it's kind of bad for the animal.
I can't even have a turtle in Nova Scotia. Never mind a frigging tiger. I can't. I had one in the UK and I wanted to bring it over, and he wouldn't let me frigging bring it because you can't have them as pets in Nova Scotia. I'm still bitter about that. I had to fucking rehome him.
You can't have a turtle as a pet in Nova Scotia, but you can have a bearded dragon.
Yeah, doesn't make sense, does it? And it's because there's 2. I'm going off on one now. There's 2
That's okay.
species of turtle native to Nova Scotia that are considered endangered, or you know, I don't know. They're protected basically, and they can catch something from turtle to turtle. Now, it wasn't actually a turtle I had; it was a tortoise. But because it's like in a fucking shell, it's been lumped into the same category. So you can't have turtles or tortoises, which I think is bullshit. Because mine doesn't. It wouldn't have survived outside in Nova Scotia anyway. It's from the Middle East for starters, so there's no way it would have survived outside there. And it's not an aquatic animal. The two things that are on this list of endangered, protected, there's fucking turtles. They're aquatic. Mine was a tortoise, so it makes no sense at all. And I had there's somebody here that owns a wildlife sanctuary. Her name is Hope. There's a TV show actually, Hope for Wildlife. And at one point, I won't go into it, but she was connected to the family. And I even went through here. I was like, "Is there anything you can do to get my tortoise here? Like, I want to bring him over. Is there anybody you can talk to just to see if they'll make one exception for me? You know, maybe if you take it, and then I'll come and get it from you." And she said, "I'll do my best." And she said, "No, they will not allow it." She looked into it for me apparently, and no. But you can go and buy a fucking tiger in Maine. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, see, it's really sad because you would think that the whole problem to that is you're a responsible pet owner. You would keep your tortoise like in your home and care for him. But what they have to have that law for is to guard against people who have one for a while and go, "Oh, I can't be bothered with it anymore," and then release it in the wild, and then they're afraid that whatever disease this thing may have it's immune to will spread it to their indigenous turtles, which will kill off the turtle population. And so because one asshat's got to be irresponsible, then nobody can have a turtle.
Yeah, basically. And the thing is as well, the law only just changed. So right before I moved here, about 6 months before, you could have them as pets, and people did. People still do. Like if you had a pet turtle or tortoise before the ban came in, you were still allowed to keep it. They're not going to come and take it off you. But no one else is allowed to have one now. We know people that moved from Scotland a year before we moved, and they brought their turtle with them, but they wouldn't let us do it, and it just pissed me off. It's so annoying. But never mind, he's been well looked after. Yes,
you've had it.
I could, because one of the options I had is that you can have them as pets in Ontario. So I could have flew into Ontario and then drove from Ontario into Nova Scotia. But then there's the whole thing of like, if you stopped by the police or whatever, like they might want to see what's going on, and then if anyone gets wind of it and then reports me, they're going to come round to the house, and it just wasn't worth the risk. And it's a lot as well to travel with a tortoise. It's it's stressful for the animal, and I wouldn't want to do that on the off chance that they might take it off me. So yeah, but he's been well looked after by somebody that I know, and I do believe that if the law was to change and I still wanted to, I think he will probably say you can take him back if you want, because he's got like fucking 10 tortoises, so it's not like you'd miss him. So
that's good.
Yeah. Anyway,
Clint.
But yeah, Clint. I called him Clint because I'm a Clint Eastwood fan. Yeah. So let's the two important questions. Do we think that Joe was set up? Let's go with that one first. Do you guys believe that he was set up by Jeff and that James Garriston? Basically the whole thing was that they said that he paid money. I can't remember the guy's name, but he paid money to one of Jeff's friends, one of Jeff's bodyguards, to go and kill Carol Baskin. Joe says that he didn't do that, and the money was for something else. He gave him the money for something else. But this guy, after Jeff had asked him to, this guy had testified to say that, well, no, he did. He paid me to go and kill her, and that's the reason why he's in prison. So, do we believe that's true, or do we think it's shit?
I think he was set up.
Yeah, what do you think, Al?
I think there's something more to it than why is he gone to, of all the people, why has he gone to Jeff's right hand man? Why was Jeff not on the stand? Why did he not? I just think there's something more to it. He knows more about it.
Right. So if you remember, he did ask someone else at one point, can you sort somebody out for me, or however he worded it. And I don't know who the guy was, but the guy said, like, what do you mean? And he's like, can you kill someone for me? And the guy was like, no. And it wasn't Jeff's friend, it was someone else. He asked somebody else, can you do this for me? And the guy said, no, I would never do that. So he had asked someone else, would they do it? So that makes me question, did you say this to this guy then? Did this happen? Makes me wonder.
I think he said that thing, he said he wants her dead a lot of times. And I think people are so used to hearing it that they weren't surprised by it.
There's a difference between saying it and then actually saying to someone, would you do this for me if I give you money? Would you go? And then there was the whole, he looked at he figured out that she took a bike ride every day, and he figured out the route she was on and go, you could get it here. He did all that himself. That's not something you just fucking do. That to me says you are thinking about having this done. And all that's been used as evidence.
And planning.
Yeah.
And Alan Glover is the name of the fella that.
That's it. Yeah.
Was
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm on the fence.
I'm a fence sitter.
Yeah,
I'm a fence sitter with this.
But I'm leaning more towards I think he did. I just don't think he was thinking about what he was doing. But part of me thinks, I think he probably did pay him to kill her. You thought you were going to get away with it.
Well, my theory. Here's my theory, because I'm a great conspiracy theorist. I love it all.
Oh yeah, go on. I love this.
Yeah, get me going. There's
I
a
bloody
couple
love
theories I got.
The theory.
My first theory is, and it's surfaced on the internet, that the fella, the Jeff Lowe character, it was actually Carol's first ex-husband, the abusive guy that she was running from when she met the guy that she ended up marrying and getting all the money from. And if you see a side-by-side comparison of the two, the guy looks like it's a legitimate theory. I mean, they look similar. So the theory is that Carol sent this guy into Joe's life to take him down from the inside, and that's a good theory. But one I think better than that. Here's my other theory: is I think Joe just always talked around about how much he hated Carol Baskin, and Jeff Lowe saw that as an opportunity, and pretty much told him, "Well, I know a guy, and he'd be cheap, so go talk to him." And I think Joe, being Joe, went to this guy and said, "So Jeff said that you would do this, would be one," and I think he was like, "Yeah, pay me $3,000 and I'll do it." And I think money exchanged hands, but I don't think it was Joe willingly going to him with the idea. I think it's one of those things. That's only $3,000. I'll sell a tiger and get that back. If I give you $3,000 and Carol Baskin, has an accident, that's one less thing I got to worry about. But I don't think that he masterminded the whole plot and came up with it like they kind of made it out like on the show. I don't think because I mean, let's face it, someone like him for all these years that wanted her dead, if he wanted her dead bad enough, he would have found a way. She wouldn't still be walking around. So that's why I think it was kind of a setup just to get him in jail so that they can get full seize of the park and then do what they wanted with it. So
yeah, it's an interesting theory. Yeah, it's it is. And of course, the other one is, do we believe that Carol killed her husband? That's the big question on everyone's mind. And it's not even a question. People seem to think straight off the bat she did it.
Yeah, she did it. no doubt in my mind.
I don't know. So I'm a fence sitter with this.
Why?
How could you be on the fence?
Because there's no evidence.
Because the fucking tiger ate the evidence.
But the way it was set up, it was like he was going to do a runner and he was going to go into hiding. So there's part of me that thinks she obviously would benefit a hell of a lot from it. But then there's another part of me that thinks he moved all his finances around. He was getting ready to go into hiding. I don't know what for, but I don't know. There's part of me that thinks that as well. So I'm fence sitting again.
All right. Well, I got a theory on this too, if you want to hear it.
Oh, go on. I love a theory.
Here's my theory. Okay, you got this old guy who left his wife and his daughters for this young, attractive girl who basically, never had any.
Jesus.
Well, if you look at her old picture, she wasn't half bad looking.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, she looks like Hillary Clinton. So there ain't no. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway.
That's why you hate it, isn't it?
No. Remember, I voted for her husband twice now. Come on. But my theory is he got with her, and then she saw an opportunity. Here's this rich guy who's, he even had that one buddy and his lawyer who said that he was coming around talking about how he was going to leave her and divorce her. So she saw this opportunity was going to go away. So next thing you know, and she even hints quite a few times that, oh, geez, like that one statement she said, if you want to have a tiger attack somebody, eat somebody, you'd spread sardine oil on them. Like, she even come right out and pretty much said that she has researched and figured out a way if you want to have a tiger eat somebody.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
I mean, that's kind of like the O.J. Simpson book that says, here's my written confession because I know I was acquitted, so I'm not going to come right out and say I did it. But if I was going to do it, I'm going to lay it out point by point on how I would think the murder would go. And then he outlines it all in his book, and you're like, well, obviously that's a confession that he knows he can't get double jeopardy on. So Jesus Christ, he's admitting to it. So I think that's kind of the way that she hinted about it. And if you watch her, she is, if you notice, I'm a great person of watching people's body language. A few times when they asked her things, was if they asked certain questions that she didn't want to answer, she rolls her eyes up in her head, she kind of laughs it off, and she looks down to the side like she's looking for an answer. People who are telling the truth don't need to be that animated and be that big a production about it. If she really truly didn't feed her husband to the lions or the tigers, if they'd have said, "Did you do this?" she'd have said, "No, that's absurd." She wouldn't have to sit there and do the old and roll her eyes up in her head and go, "That's absurd," and look off and go, "Oh, why?" Like to me, that's a little too dramatic. You're trying to deflect from what you're saying with your body language, so it's a distraction from the truth. That's just me. But I think she's guilty, and she ought to be swimming with the fishes down in the Ozarks. That's my theory on it. But
so you don't want me
again,
to try and get it on the show then?
It's well, sure. I'll fucking ask her. I ain't afraid. But just Carol, if you're listening, I think you're innocent until proven guilty. And Hillary Clinton, if you're listening, I don't think you've ever killed anybody. Just putting that out there. You're a lovely lady, and you're a great First Lady and Secretary of State. So having said all that, I think I won't have like a mysterious heart attack next week and die. So
and yeah. And Carol, Todd likes what he sees.
Yeah, for the right price, you're a millionaire. Making a decent proposal, we'll talk. I'll wear a cat suit. I ain't afraid.
I can imagine you with a little collar around your neck.
Oh boy!
I can feel it. I can feel a photo edit coming on.
Yeah. There's the picture of Carol Baskin with her husband. He's dressed up like the cat.
Yeah.
He looks like he just took shit in a litter box, and he's got that like docile look on his face, like a lazy guy. And it's like, put my face on that picture and fucking put it out there, and I love it.
You know it's gonna happen.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't care.
Do you know what stood out for me with the Carol story? Is that she went to I don't know what you call it, but where she have to officially declare the person dead after 5 years.
Oh yes.
Like she went 5 years in one day. It's like she's not helping herself.
Yeah.
In that situation. If everyone's already thinking you're guilty, then you wait 5 years in one day. You could have, she's obviously been counting down. Oh, it's 5 years. I'll go tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's just like, you could have left it a little bit longer, yeah. But yeah, I'm fence sitting with that.
Brilliant.
I'm
Excellent.
just saying, with all the things that you see and all the things that came out of her mouth and her actions, to me, it points toward there was some foul play involved. If she didn't feed him to the tigers, she knows who did. I'm putting it that way.
Right, everyone's got to watch the body language in front of Tom now.
Definitely.
It's like watching a poker match. You see, everybody has their own little tells that they do when they get something good or bad, and you can read them like a book. That's the secret to poker. It's not your cards; it's the person's body language. So, watch the body language, and you'll get the truth.
And
I'm a terrible liar. I'll be caught straight away.
I'm interested to know what our listeners think as well, if they've got any theories. So please, let us know. Send us a DM or tweet us or whatever, and let us know what you think, because it's interesting stuff. I would like to see if they do a second series. I think it'll be interesting. I'm not sure what they could do because obviously Joe's in prison, but I don't know. Maybe he'll get out. I don't know. To me, it seems a shame to leave him in there for that long when nobody actually died. You know what I mean?
Well,
I think it's a bit much.
Yeah,
Well, the tigers, yeah, I get that, but no humans were killed. Like that. The whole reason why he's in there is for that reason. That it was a plot to have Carol killed, and she's still with us. So I don't know. Anyway, we can wrap up this episode. This has been like a Tiger King special, which we don't do very often. I think the last time we did a special, it was a Trailer Park Boys one, to be honest. So it's been refreshing to focus on a different kind of show, and everyone's
Did you
talking
give
about
your
it. So.
take on what you thought about the whole Carol Baskin situation, if she did it or not?
Oh,
Give us your point of view on it.
I don't believe she did. No.
What?
I know you got Kelly. Kelly's sitting on the fence. You're like a dead set. She did it, and I'm like, and the reason why is because there's no evidence. It seems like a funny, like what's the word I'm looking for? It works out really well if she did, like, just for the documentary. It's quite, it just adds to the whole shock appeal of it. But did she do it? I don't think so. The best thing I liked to come out of that was the music video that he made for the "Here Kitty Kitty" song. That was amazing. Where you get to look-alike of Carol to play Carol in the video and feed to me. The full video for that is on YouTube, by the way. You've got to watch it. And lyrically, it's amazing. It's amazing lyrically. So
he doesn't help himself, does he?
No, he doesn't. That's what I mean. Like, he doesn't help himself. But no, I don't know. I just don't feel like she did. There'd have to be some evidence there. There's nothing to say she did
I'm
it.
leaning more towards she didn't, but there's a few things that's like the 5 years of one day makes you go, oh, hang on a minute, question things. But yeah,
I'm convinced 1,000% she did. I'll be the minority. I don't care.
all opinions. Carol or Todd Walters.
Do you know what I did notice?
To any of us.
What I did notice about him, about Joe, is that he's very much like Dick Johnson.
Yeah, if Dick Johnson was gay and you turn him up a couple notches, you'd definitely have Joe Exotic.
Yeah. So Joe Exotic, we got Dick Erotic.
Oh, lovely.
Excellent. So we can wrap it up now. So just give out our details. So you can go to majorsmesshall.com. That's our website. Our Instagram is Mess Hall Podcast. Our Twitter is @MajorsMessHall. Our Facebook, you can just find us on Facebook by searching Majors Mess Hall. And of course, the Patreon page is patreon.com/MajorsMessHall. And that is if you want to support us, you can donate whatever you want monthly to us. And it all goes towards the podcast. We say this in every episode, but the replenishments of old equipment and things like the website. You have to pay for the website and the SoundCloud fee and stuff like that. So if you want to support us there, you can do. But other than that, thank you very much for listening again. Thank you for Kelly for stepping into Craig's giant size 12s and helping us with the interview, and obviously talking to us now as well, before and after. And,
no problem.
Thanks to my co-pilot Todd for helping
you're welcome.
helping to fly this. And if this is your first time listening to Majors Mess Hall, please do go back over some of our other episodes. We've had some really interesting guests on in the past, and it's a comedy-based podcast where we do some skits and things, and like we say, we have some funny guests on. We play some games. It's pretty much a riot, and it takes you out of reality for an hour or so. So yeah, check us out. Anyway, we will be back for episode 118, which is coming up soon. I can't even believe 118. We're getting into this now, aren't we?
It's going to go up even quicker now that we're doing a weekly.
Exactly, yeah, we are weekly now. Normally we're every 2 weeks.
We're going to hit episode 200 in no time.
Yep, I think we will. Just because of this pandemic, we figured we'd go weekly, so we made a decision last week to go weekly, so that's what we're doing. So it's normally every Wednesday or Thursday we will put an episode out, and once this pandemic is dealt with, we will probably go back to 2 weeks again, just to give me a break from the editing, because it's a stressful thing to get done. So yeah, anyway guys, let's say bye, and we will see you next time.
Alrighty, take care.
Bye.
Peace out.